So you have an idea, whether it's a startup, a business, a podcast, or just a gig. You probably want to test it out first before you commit, and preferably for free. So today, after 6, we will deep dive into the topic of testing your idea while still working your 9 to 5. Because next to me is Priyanka Roychoudhury, who is the founder and CEO of Occasia, an innovative startup that helps you to book next location for your event. But just a year ago, from what I know, Priyanka was working her 9 to 5 job, or maybe less than a year ago. Hi Priyanka, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Angela.
So Priyanka, tell me how your Monday looked like a year ago.
My Monday a year ago was my usual waking up in the morning, getting my breakfast, going out for my 9 o'clock start to my job, doing my job, wrapping up hopefully by the end of 5:30, going back home, and then ending my day.
Yeah, so you were working 9 to 5 by doing...
So I was doing actually a data analyst role in a charity, and it was a full-time job for me, 9 to 5, as you say, and I didn't think of anything else that could happen in my life. A little over a year now, I guess, I am doing a full-time startup job, that is building my own startup, and it is as wild and as different as it can be from a 9 to 5.
How your day looks like now? Like you wake up, what happens then?
Very, very good question. Well, firstly, I would say I don't have a distinction between Mondays and Sundays anymore, but also there is no definite start and an end time. Sometimes I am energetic and I am all motivated to start my day at 7 in the morning, and I do that. But by the time it's 2, I do not feel like working and I take the day off after that. But there are times when it is not a 9 to 5, rather a 7 to 10. And so each day looks different.
It also seems to me like quite a cool job to have, working for charity. How did you come up with the idea of Occasia? It seems to be so different from the job that you had.
Yes. And I think for me, the difference of how I was working in a charity to now being in a startup of building a platform for helping find the right places for events came not from my professional experience. It came from my personal life. So while I had the tag of consultant and then data analyst, over time I had realized that one other factor was very common across my life, which is I loved hosting people and I loved attending events to find new people. And that is where the idea of Occasia came from. So it was interesting because I am now using my professional skills to do something that I found a passion for through my personal life.
How did you, on the practical side, started the idea of Occasia?
When I decided that one thing that I really did not find it easy to do was find the events that are happening around me in London easily. There were many platforms that were giving out different events. Some were sponsored, some were maybe focused on a specific area. But I really wanted to meet a lot of new women in the city. And I couldn't find a space where I could just find these small events, which are where I had previously found some of my best friends in the city. And that's how it started. I decided I will go out and look for these events, collate them, curate them, and I started an Instagram page. And so at that time, it was called Heard Spaces. And that was the inspiration. I just wanted other women who might be looking for events to go to, meet new people, find out about the not very big and popular events easily.
Exactly. And you wanted like a company for networking, like your companion for networking events.
Yes.
Right, nice. And how then from the Instagram page, you realized that that was the idea you wanted to work on?
For me, the idea from Heard Spaces evolved into Occasia very naturally. So I wasn't looking for, okay, what is the next thing out of this? I think for me, the most important part was that it was organic. Heard Spaces let me get introduced to event organizers. And when I talked to event organizers, I realized there that it's not easy to host an event in this city, especially if it is not your full-time job. A lot of these spaces and the events that were being hosted were by people who had a 9 to 5, and they did this out of their passion or hobby and just to get people together. And my intention was it should be easier for these communities to come together because they are such an integral part of our lives. And that is when I started asking them questions. And they said one of the biggest things that they faced issue with was, where do we host these events without giving out, say, £500 or £1,000 out of their pocket for an event space?
So that was the moment you found the problem.
Yes.
You will solve. Right. So if I understand this correctly, back then you were still working your 9 to 5. You were managing an Instagram page where you would meet with other women to go and network on some events. And during those events, you would also meet with events organizers and kind of a check on what type of problems they had with the events org. Is this the way it worked?
Yes.
Can I ask you, where did you find time for all of that while still being employed on your 9 to 5?
I ended my job, and very intentionally. For me, it was very important that I was clear on where I am using my time and balancing it out, which is why I am not an overnight founder. I did not think of a problem, build a product, take it live, and quit my full-time job. I took my time, used whatever energy I had after my 9 to 5, and spread it out so that I could do my 9 to 5 while also step into this new area of building something from scratch.
You realized there is a problem. What was next? Like, how did you actually start it, Occasia?
Test it out beyond just me. Because a lot of the time when you hit upon a problem that you want to solve, it might just be a problem that isn't as big enough as you think. So for me, the first step was to then go out and talk to more event organizers. And to be honest, I was quite judicious with the use of the term event organizers. I talked to my friends who organize their birthdays. They are an event organizer when they go out looking for a space to host their birthdays or celebration of any personal milestone. And those were those initial interactions that resulted in me at least understanding that this is not an isolated problem. I was recommended this book called The Mom's Test. If anyone out there looking to start, it's a very classic book that people recommend, and I would say it's a quick read. Do give it a read. It was very helpful for me to understand that when I'm using my very precious outside of my 9 to 5 time, I use it as resourcefully as I can. So when I went about talking to people, I made sure that the questions I asked gave me enough information to inform my next steps.
Yeah, so I've read the book. I read it a long time ago, but from what I remember, it's a framework of how to form your questions when you're testing the idea. Am I right?
Yes.
So in this case, the way you tested your idea was a survey of your possible future users.
I would say that for me, the way I tested my idea was to think about the kind of questions I would ask with the intention to unearth the problem rather than to ask if my solution is helpful.
Is a good fit, right?
Yes. So it wasn't like a survey in the way that you would expect the survey landing up in your inbox. But when I talk to you, for example, if I meet you and we are catching up and I have some time with you, I will probably slip in some questions which feel natural and not like I'm interviewing you to understand, hey, did you happen to find the place that you were looking for your birthday? And if they say yes or no, I then took the conversation to take it a bit deeper to see if it is a problem they experience. So even when I wasn't explicitly doing Occasia work, some conversations gave me insight that fed into my problem statement for Occasia.
All right. Let's say we have this problem now.
Yeah.
Let's see how we actually test it. Can you test some questions on me?
Sure.
About your idea?
Of course. Examples. So let's say we are meeting up, catching up after some time, and I know that your birthday is coming up And
It's true, actually. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
lovely. So I would ask, hey, Angela, I am so excited that your birthday is coming up. And I, like always, would love to join in the celebration.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me that you were looking for a place to celebrate your birthday. How is that going?
You know, I was looking for some pub where we can all get together, maybe have a pint or two at 16, as my British friends normally do. And I just can't find anything that is affordable and also quite central so they can commute. So I'm in doubts. Maybe, yeah, I'm in doubts. Do you have any recommendations?
Exactly the same question that I got asked, Angela, by another friend. And you know what? I actually have a place in mind. This is the place where I celebrated my birthday last year, and it was really good. But you are right. It's so hard. I spent almost maybe 3 days of my very precious time looking for a place. I wonder how many other people are doing it. But was there any specific pub in mind that really was the perfect fit for you?
Yeah, there was one, actually. Again, true story. Friend of mine was doing his birthday celebration there. I kind of liked the location, but the pub was very, very old, and they served only 3 types of beer. And, you know, didn't really fit my type of a birthday. So I'm not sure about that one. Yeah.
Got it. So you know what kind of places may not work for you,
Yeah.
but also places which you might think of as the environment you want for your
Yeah.
birthday. Wouldn't it be nice if we just had something which helped you put in the exact vibe and the location and the budget that you have, and it pops out, here are your choices, instead of you scrolling through a lot of things?
Yeah, I mean, probably.
So I guess we can stop there. But
Yeah.
with this conversation, I kind of for one, understood that there is a problem that comes in your life where you are looking for venues for some event.
Yeah.
And that is important to me to see what kind of people face this problem. Is this just one type of customer who looks for events, who organizes events all the time? Or is it also a problem for someone who may be looking for a place once a year for their birthday?
Yeah.
So I think for me, when back then, a year back, when I had very limited time, I made sure that my conversations had some bits of information bringing out from my friends, my family, my colleagues even.
Yeah.
So I guess if you are intending to explore a problem, there are many ways. And I would say that this was when I hadn't opened up the vault of AI tools that are now available to me.
Yeah. How did you know that this solution will work? How did you know it's time to invest your time in it?
The market and seeing what the current solutions for this problem are. That was, I think, the biggest light bulb moment for me as a founder, that as much as we would like to think that we have hit upon the problem that no one else is solving, it's rarely the case. Problems are out there, and just like me, there are other people who might be thinking of solving the same problem. So I went out, Googled, what are the ways through which people find venues for events in London to start with. And for me, that was the start of knowing what is out there. And that actually gave the validation I needed. The moment I saw that there were solutions being built for a problem, I knew that this was a big enough problem for someone to have existed to give their services to solve it.
What the next stage that you took? Like, what was the action? I know you've been into 2 accelerators or incubators. Tell me about it. How did you manage to do it?
So that is actually the next step I took. So yes, you are right. I have been to 3 incubators.
3 incubators?
Yes.
Wow.
And yes, I was doing it with my 9 to 5. For those who don't know, maybe I'll just let people know what an incubator is. So incubator is basically an intensive course, I would say. So think of it like a boot camp. So it is intensive. It is cohort based. So you are working and brought together with a set of other people, and you get a lot of mentorship and learnings. So anyone who is interested to start a business but may not know all the skills or the ways through which a startup needs to be built, these incubators support them right from the beginning, even from the extent of just that you have an idea. So for me, these incubators laid the foundation. You're right, 3 incubators was a lot. Looking back, maybe I would have not done 3 incubators, but my passion to just learn and get Occasia started, I guess the adrenaline took me on. And the best thing about them was that they were spread out. So, for example, these incubators, even if they are intensive, they might be 1 or maximum 2 days a week. And that meant I have 5 days in the week, and I had all my evenings blocked out. But that was a choice, that after my day ended with my job, my other day started with my incubator sessions.
So how, just again to give you more context, incubator is like a place where they incubate your idea into business. And sometimes it can be online, sometimes it can be offline. Am I correct that all of 3 of yours were online, or did you also?
Yes, indeed. All my incubators were online, which is again the reason I could balance them up with a 9 to 5.
And is it free to enter an incubator?
It really depends. Incubators can come in different shapes and sizes. For the ones that I went in, 2 of them were free. 1 of them had a very minimal initial charge that I had to pay. And for me, it worked out. I could invest that amount. And I can be very honest, it was as low as £50.
What was one most valuable lesson that you took out of all 3 incubators as a startup founder?
The one valuable lesson which was common from all of these 3 incubators was definitely to know what is a problem worth solving and what kind of a problem gets defined as a startup. So I think that is an important distinction. Every problem which is viable commercially, if that is the business model someone is looking for, just to say there are other models such as nonprofit. So if we are talking about commercial models, there are businesses which are different from what we know as startups. And every problem need not be solved from a startup model. That was a very important distinction that I learned, and which was common throughout the 3 incubators, to identify what is the problem that you're passionate about and is it worth pursuing through a startup model.
Can you share, how do you know if the problem is worth pursuing through a startup model?
The way we know how a problem can be solved through a startup model is to see 3 different things. For us, it is important to know how big is the market that this problem exists in. So that is the first thing. The second is to know what we as a founder want out of this experience. Are we willing to go at the pace which is quick, which is intensive, and which explores this problem at a pace that is beyond, say, self-generating or revenue-generating problem? So, for example, if you go down the street, you see a cafe. They are solving a problem. That is, in that location, there might not be another bakery and a coffee place, and they are solving the problem for their customers in that area. Would we call that a startup? Not in the language that currently exists about the startup. So understanding the problem and knowing what business model works and the pace at which it works and the size at which it exists is important for us.
And what is the third factor?
The third factor for sure is, how do you fund it?
Already here, like, you've learned a lot. You've learned all of the basics of a startup world during the incubation program. How hard it is to get into the incubator. If you just have an idea, you work on your 9 to 5, you're not sure yet if you want to invest your time and resources into that idea. How hard it is to get into acceleration.
Getting into these incubators, I would say, is as easy as it could be if you are clear on what you want out of the incubator and what you take into the incubator. So for anyone who is interested on how to get into the incubators that exist, and there are plenty, it is usually an application process. And that is how they shift and they understand who to take into their cohorts, because they want to make sure that the cohorts are balanced and informed enough to make it a good experience for everyone. So that application is the key stage. If you are clear about the idea, if you have any, again, in full disclosure, there are incubators who doesn't require an idea at the application stage, but they would definitely ask why you want to be part of the incubator. And you need to be sure of that answer.
Can you advise to someone who's thinking about, oh, maybe my idea is a fit for incubator, some of the incubators you came through that you can apply from whatever you are in the world, maybe?
Sure. I would recommend the ones that I went through. One is the Hatch Launchpad. So this is the one by the Hatch Enterprise, which is very helpful. I highly recommend. And the one I attended was specifically for female founders. Again, a very safe space for someone who may not be absolutely sure if this is the journey, but at least give it a try.
Yeah.
The other two were one by BHQ. BHQ stands for British Asian Entrepreneurs HQ, and it was definitely something I stumbled upon, and very much from an event I attended for last year's International Women's Day. So that is where I got introduced to them. I looked up their website and saw that they were opening their incubator applications, and I applied. The other one was something that I came across through an Instagram post. So this was an incubator by the Global Shapers Community of the World Economic Forum, the London hub, and they were looking to support underrepresented founders. And for me, that was important because it felt like the right fit for me as someone who is an immigrant in this country and a woman founder. So it really fit into the ways in which I could see myself learn and grow.
You can find, just a note, you can find so many more. Basically to any, I think, nationality, to any occupation, you can connect it to whatever you want. There are so many opportunities, and a lot of incubators do exist because some of either venture funds or maybe angel communities decide to invest basically in the education of a future founders, helping in a way for you to develop your idea, but then also maybe in the future help you with the investment. So I didn't want to go into the investment because I know it's a whole another round, but just quick question. Does any of these incubations help you to get investment at the end of the day for your startup?
So for the 3 incubators that I attended, none of them promised any direct investment. The one that I did get support from was Hatch Enterprise, which allowed all graduates of its program to apply for a grant.
Amazing.
Which was another door opened up for me because that opportunity was only available for the graduates of the program.
So one of the idea on how to test your startup or business or whatever idea is just to find an incubator. Get enrolled if you have enough time, and you can definitely do it for free. When was the moment when you decided to quit your job? When overall is the moment when you need to quit your job, when you're like, all right, now this is my job, and you quit your 9 to 5?
It was when I saw the potential of where this idea can grow to be, and when I decided that I cannot anymore do justice to my 9 to 5 and this idea at the same time. So it was a very conscious choice after I had used as much of my time after my 9 to 5 to test out the idea to the extent that I had paid customers even when I was doing my 9 to 5.
This is so interesting that you mentioned it, because I recently had a discussion with serial founder, the person who's been on the market for so long, and they've shared how do they see product market fit. And product market fit, for someone who doesn't know, is basically that metric you're looking at and you're now, okay, now this idea worth the money, and something that means that you found your market or your customers. And they said that before the product market fit, because it's a switch, right? You are the one who's chasing your customers. After the product market fit, you kind of switch places, and now you've been chased by your customers. Even if you have no product ready, whatever the readiness of your product is, you will feel that now you are pressured by your customers, and they will wait for you to build it because there is a real problem. I think it resonates what you just said, right? You felt that, okay, I now have paying customers. I have to give them back. They're waiting for me. So now I have to probably quit my 9 to 5 job.
Exactly.
And so you started building. How did you do it? As from what I understand, you don't have a technical background.
Fortunately, I think I started building Occasia in a period when the world changed. And what I mean by the world changing is the inflow of all the various AI tools that we currently see in the market. So in particular, the one thing that helped me to build a tech product without having a technical background of building softwares was to use one of the many AI tools that were available. I used Lovable, which I don't know how many of your audience would be aware of, but it's quite common right
It's
now.
everywhere.
It's everywhere. Everyone talks about it in some way. Someone or the other is testing out one of their ideas on it. And yes, I used Lovable to build my first prototype and what we even call an MVP for Occasia now.
That's amazing. And MVP is a minimum valuable product, so something you can show to your future customers and they can actually test it and interact with it. And how do you think, do you need someone technical if you're building as you with Lovable? Did you have someone technical to check with something you've built?
Good question. So for me, when I built the MVP, the first prototype for Occasia, I did not have anyone. I just used Lovable and I used YouTube videos. I used anything that was out there talking about building prototypes with Lovable to navigate any challenges I faced. And when I did build the product, there were hiccups on the way, but it came out to the extent that it was usable by someone who can click through and see what my idea looks like in flesh. I do think that there is a ceiling, and I hit the ceiling when I needed to build a very secure backend for my prototype. Again, not to get very technical, that is the point where I knew that I cannot do this alone and I needed others to join my team. And now I have a team of a software developer and a product designer who have very helpfully and graciously come on board to build Occasia with me. But to the extent that I needed an MVP, Lovable worked.
How long did it take you?
It was, for me, building MVP with Lovable was a trial and error. Again, I would say this is 1 year back, which meant Lovable was in a different state than what it is now. That is the pace at which these tools are changing. So for me, initially, it took a weekend to build the product and then maybe a week to test out the bugs and make sure that someone else using it doesn't see this as a toy, but a real product.
Yeah. Any other tools that you've used, a part of Lovable, for building?
I would definitely say that I used at that time ChatGPT. The reason being that Lovable works, but it has limited credits. So if we are talking about testing an idea without spending a lot or even nothing, Lovable gives free credits, but they are limited and you can hit those credits very easily. So I used ChatGPT to craft my prompt for Lovable, which meant that I was making sure that the prompt that goes into Lovable was very high in context, very clear, less ambiguous, so that it used all the information that it could to give me what I wanted. So ChatGPT at that time and Lovable at that time was a good combination for me. I also definitely used Figma Make when it came out to prototype the front end of the product. It was incredible. I could never think of the fact that I, with no background in design, could build UI for a technical product. So Figma Make was very helpful at that time when it came out and I tested it. I also was very curious and then very surprised with how good some of these voice recording AI tools were. So as we talked about, it's very important to always be talking to your users, understanding what they want. And it is a lot when you talk to users and have to note down everything at the same time. But with the coming of all of these meeting notes takers, it was incredibly helpful for me to catch everything that my users said, use Notebook LM, another AI tool, to summarize and synthesize all my user interviews and use that into my product development.
Did you spend any real money on Lovable, or was it all credits?
It's all free credits for me.
So you developed completely free, MVP was Lovable while still working on your 9 to 5. Then you tested with your user tests, and then only when you had paid users, you decided to quit.
Yes.
That's incredible timeline. Are those AI tools different from since the time you started building and using one set of AI tools like Lovable, you mentioned ChatGPT, to now? Are those tools same for you?
I would say even within the space of 6 months, these AI tools have incredibly changed in terms of their power, their accuracy, also the scope of their work. So for example, 1 year back, I was using ChatGPT and Perplexity. So Perplexity is one where I used to do a lot of research to get credible information. Right now, I just use ChatGPT. In fact, I actually moved to Claude last month because I found their model to be superior as of now. So I am constantly testing out different AI tools and seeing which one serves my purpose at that point the best. And they are changing at an incredibly fast pace.
Yeah. So testing all the time, testing those AI tools. Which one is currently, today, is your priority number one? Which one is your go-to AI tool today?
Right now, I would say it's Claude because, again, as I mentioned, the model works really good. I am also starting to explore the space of AI agents, which means Cloud Code and Cloud Cowork are important new areas for me to test out. And so right now, my environment is very much cloud, but I would definitely say that there are specific use cases of certain AI tools which I'm still sticking to, which is maybe NotebookLM for synthesis. I still use it. I definitely also use all the voice recording tools, and it helps me.
Which one is your favorite for voice recording?
I use Firefly's AI, and I also use, it's not the voice recording, but Granola for meeting notes. Yes, that's definitely in there for me.
And just a side note here, when you're a startup founder, especially at the early stage, a lot of those companies, as you mentioned, like Anthropic, OpenAI, AWS, Google Cloud, give you free credits as a founder when you start in. But then obviously, as you spend more and more, you will have to obviously pay for all of those resources. So it's up to you on how you rely on that infrastructure, because in the future, you will pay anyway.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, which I would like to emphasize. Go out to the market and search for these free credits. As a startup, there are many. You mentioned Google Cloud. We are using Google Startup Cloud credits for our product. And you actually will be surprised how much there is available as resources for startups.
Yeah, it's true. And again, most of those resources are free. So speaking of AI agents, I have another video on this channel with Shane Salon, who's an incredible also female founder of Launch Lemonade, like a Canva. She created like a Canva for AI agents. You might want as well to look at her marketplace, because for you personally, I think you could have maybe in the future hire one of those agents to do some of the work for you, maybe in marketing, maybe in sales, maybe in customer support. And for you, if you haven't seen the video yet, go and check it out. It's super useful. It has everything you need to know from 0 to 1 for AI agents. I want to hear your opinion as of today. If you are to start everything from scratch today of building your startup and you're still employed on your 9 to 5, what would be something you do differently?
Wow. On a hindsight, I would say if I were to start my whole journey again as a startup founder while doing my 9 to 5, the one thing I would immediately go for is making sure that I invest my time in the right way and not be all over the place. So for example, I definitely attended maybe too many events because that took away time which I could have spent on digging deeper into the problem that I was exploring at that time. It is about understanding what is a good balance between networking, working on your problem on your own, talking to users, and then also attending incubators while also doing your 9 to 5. So the one thing I would do differently is to be kinder to myself and understand, did I need to do 3 incubators at the same time, or could I have spaced it out differently?
Yeah. Thank you so much for mentioning your personal time, because I was a part of a startup before. I was a CMO in an early stage startup, and I would definitely add to that one, have some time to yourself. Have some time to recover, to really soak in all that information, have some time to recharge. We started this conversation with me asking you, how was your Monday a year ago? How was your Monday this month? How do you see your Monday in 2030? So in 4-5 years, how do you see your Monday? What is different?
This is an incredibly great question, but I feel like this is also a difficult question because our world is changing so quickly right now. I would say, given what I know around me and the developments that are happening, my Monday 5 years from now would be where I wake up and an AI agent is taking care of all my to-dos, all my schedules, taking care of my calendar, which means I am left with a lot more time to work on my startup, which I'm hoping is global marketplace by the end of 2030. And it gives me the time to really focus on my human elements and the creative parts of me, which I believe in 5 years' time will still be that makes humans human.
What would be your final note to someone who's still working on 9 to 5 and just had that one idea?
I would say if you are someone who is mulling over an idea, but still are not sure if you want to quit your job, your 9 to 5, to explore it fully, do not give up. You can do it while being in a 9 to 5. Be just aware of all the things around you that are opportunities that you can take, and never think that you cannot be a startup founder because you have only just been doing a 9 to 5.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for sharing your story from working 9 to 5 as a data analyst to becoming an incredible startup founder. Your story is inspirational, and I hope you folks enjoyed it. If it is so, please go and check Occasia, first of all, then go and check Priyanka's LinkedIn. Give this video a thumbs up, maybe share it with your network, because let's face it, it's worth it. And the main thing, go there and build whatever you want. Explore, but the main thing, experiment. Because for sure, there are so many things that are just free or cost you almost nothing. I believe in you. I think Priyanka believes in you. So you're the last person that just needs to believe in yourself now. Thank you so much, Priyanka. It was so lovely to chat with you today.
Thank you, Angela. The pleasure was mine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.